Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 91st episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. Now, it's Pride Month, and like I said in my Tu Wong Fu review, I'll be doing Pride videos the rest of the month. So, happy Pride Month, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite LGBT movies, one I've been wanting to review, but wanting to wait for this month. This is a touchy subject, and although I may not be the guy who should be touching it, I'm going to do my best and try and tackle this difficult film with care and honesty. My goal here isn't to offend anyone because I am not a part of this community, so I apologize in advance if I do. So today we're covering Laurence Anyways, 2012, directed by Xavier Dolan. This is a French-Canadian film starring Melvin Papad and Suzanne Clement. Now, Xavier Dolan is a gay director who I personally think is a genius. He's only in his mid-30s and directed a film this mature in his early 20s. I mean, watch his other films and you'll understand why I say this man is a genius. Laurence Anyways tackles a subject that has been hot for the last few years: trans people and their dating life. Now, I'm just going to speak my mind here. Don't worry, I have nothing negative to say about trans people. In fact, this film gave me a new appreciation for them and what they go through. I actually fell in love with Laurence a little bit. I will not be going over this film point by point, but I will be spoiling little bits and pieces to get my point across. So let's get into this thing. Laurence Anyways is about a man named Laurence living with his loving girlfriend Fred. These two seemingly have the perfect relationship, and honestly, they do. There's just one problem. Laurence identifies as a woman and can't take living the lie he's been living anymore. So Laurence begins his journey into womanhood as we watch this man change and grow into a lovely lady, and we see how it affects his life and those closest to him. So I'm going to do this review a little different from the rest. I'm going to just flat out say I think this movie is asking a very serious question that we all have wondered one time or another. This movie isn't asking us about trans people. It isn't testing our morality. It's asking one simple question, and what I think the main theme of this film is love unconditional? Well, I sort of want to give my opinion on that question, but I'll save it until the end of this review. This movie asks us the question on multiple levels, between many different characters and scenarios. That's why I think Dolan is a genius. He made one of the most honest films I think I've ever seen. It's subtle in its message, but punches you hard. It's realistic in its approach, not too over the top. Laurence and Fred feel real, and man, their relationship does too. Laurence as a character is a teacher and a writer. He's intelligent, funny, and the kind of guy you would have a beer with. The people in his life seem to love him very much, and his students and peers take to him well. He is quite respected for his work in education and literature. Laurence seems to really have a great life, and most of all, a great doting, loving girlfriend, Fred. Frederique is a fiery, fun, and kind of out there girl. She has dyed red hair and an overall interesting look. Her and Lawrence's relationship is kind of what you would dream of having with someone. They get along so well. They laugh and play like kids even though they're in their mid-30s. They have a great physical chemistry. What more could you want? They have a life that they have built together, a nice one. So why would Laurence want to jeopardize that by becoming a woman? Well, I can't answer that question, but I can say this. Anyone who would risk what he has with Fred must really care about what they want and what they are willing to do to get it. Because the love they have doesn't come every day. That kind of connection is maybe 2 or 3 if you're lucky in a lifetime. I love their relationship. If you are going to be in one, you want it to be like this. Material things didn't matter to them. They had love in each other, and that's all they needed. Now, Laurence, like I said, feels like a lady inside, and it shows in little ways before he takes the leap. He puts his relationship to the test when he reveals to his girl that he wants to be a lady, which she confuses for him being gay, which isn't the case. Well, technically, he will be as he starts identifying as a woman, but he has no sexual interest in men. Laurence is still very much in love with Fred and attracted to her and wants her to stay with him, which is where we start to get into that question. Is love unconditional? Now look, as much as I love Laurence, let's keep it real. It's quite selfish to want someone to change everything they once knew and loved about you and just deal with this version of you that they didn't sign up for. Would she be a jerk for leaving? Should she set aside her wants and try and make this work for the sake of her love? How deep does one's love go? Will Laurence stay if the shoes were reversed? Oh, I think I forgot to mention this film takes place in the 80s and 90s, so we really are dealing with a taboo subject here. Back then, we didn't know as much as we do about it now. And not to mention, society is far more accepting of this. I'll tell you, men and women doing this back then were some of the bravest people on the planet. I mean, they were ridiculed. There's even a bar scene where Laurence has to fight these two guys all because of what she is wearing. From here on out, I will be referring to Laurence as she and her because I do think pronouns matter here, and Laurence identifies as a woman. So, is Fred a believer in unconditional love? Well, like anyone else, Fred freaks out a little at first, but because her love for Laurence is so deep, she starts to accept her and come around to what she wants to do, even being quite supportive. She takes her shopping and even buys her her first wig, which I think is one of the sweetest scenes in the film. She sees how vulnerable and scared she is. When she confronts her about trying on her clothes, you can see Laurence is afraid, and even though she's angry, her love for her takes it all over. She helps Laurence, comforts her, and still treats her like the great partner she's always been to her. But how long will that last? How long will Fred be able to accept her new girlfriend and be okay with the major lifestyle changes? Well, I think Fred has handled this very well for a while. Although the change in her partner is sparking a major change in her, the thing is, I do think that Fred was really going to give it her all for this relationship. I think she really tried. But I know a lot of people haven't seen this, so I'm not going to tell you the spark that really made her ultimately leave. I'm on both sides of the fence here. On one hand, I really do understand where Fred is coming from and why she does what she ultimately does, but at the same time, shame on you, Fred. You must tell your partner your feelings and everything that is going on with you. Fred, as loving as she is, has her limits just like everyone else. How can we judge this character for her actions? She's thrown into a situation that she didn't ask or even expect to be in. Her life was set. She had it all. And the rug was kind of pulled out from under her without warning. Can we blame either of these two for both going after what they ultimately wanted in life? Laurence wants to be a woman, and Fred wants to be with a man. Well, these are quite conflicting interests. Human nature will only let us be in a situation we aren't comfortable in for so long, and that especially goes for our two leads. Sometimes love isn't good enough to hold us together. If your parents are divorced, I'm sure they both loved each other still when they got divorced. Now, love is what keeps Fred and Laurence in each other's lives after all this time that goes by. Years go by. And these two, even though they live different lives and are apart, can't seem to forget about each other and keep coming back. Fred really takes a turn in her life, and so does Laurence. But the difference between them, Fred is living a lie and Laurence is living the truth. Despite the world wanting to change Laurence, she isn't letting anyone stand in her way. Instead of Fred being free and refining her life, she covers it up with decisions that will satisfy her in the short term. Laurence is staying true to herself. She is strong and brave. She finds things out about people around her and she still makes the best and most of her new life. She loves herself and loves herself unconditionally. But that doesn't answer the question still. We know Laurence is capable of loving unconditionally, but she isn't perfect either. Laurence makes many mistakes, the main one not being true to herself to begin with, and that's because she ends up hurting someone who cares for her deeply by not doing so. Now, I'm not blaming her, but also, I can understand the point of view of his loved ones. Everyone ultimately makes decisions that they feel are better for themselves in this. Ultimately, I think everyone in this movie will have some sort of regrets in the decisions they make. But you have to stay true to yourself no matter what, and that's what this film teaches us. That's the main lesson. No matter how hard it may be to do so, you have to do it. I was always a different kid than others. I was always moving to my own beat. And I had my time where I conformed to fit in a bit. but I always ended up doing what I wanted to, and I'm glad that I've done so in life because it's my life to live and no one else can say a damn thing about it. Love is a powerful drug. A drug that I think is more addictive than any substance or even money. When you love someone or something, it consumes you in your mind. You want to spend all your time on that person or thing you love. You sacrifice for it. You do anything to keep it. But if that thing isn't rewarding you the way it once was, the addiction will wear off. And this movie shows us that in the worst and most heartbreaking way. Even when love has you floating in midair, gravity can pull you down to earth at any minute. So fuck it. Let's answer the question I posed. Is love unconditional? Well, in this movie at least, I must say it is not. There are many conditions to love, and whether we want to believe it or not, it's conditional for every single person on earth. Everyone, and I mean everyone, will have something that will be a deal breaker. You may be able to deal with it for a while, but eventually you will go out and live the life you want. Fred's love for Laurence, although it seemed unconditional, it was very, very conditional. And when you watch this movie, you will understand what I mean. Fred and Laurence were great partners for each other to a point, but they aren't perfect people. They both lie and cheat and do things for selfish reasons, even if we can understand those reasons. The film shows us the complications of love along with how change in a person can change everything around them. This movie is one of my all-time favorite LGBT movies. The colors in this movie are amazing. The cinematography is beautiful. The outfit choices and colors to them are very specific to the characters, and it is a very beautiful film to look at. The acting is beyond amazing. The writing is perfect, and the direction is mind-blowing. I still can't believe this kid made this movie in his early 20s. Honestly, if this was a Hollywood production, the two leads would have won Oscars. They were brilliant. Fred in the diner scene, oh my God, I felt like I wasn't watching a movie, but a real peer into someone's hard life. Someone who is hurting and struggling and just fed up with everything. The way Laurence transforms and blossoms is so inspiring and beautiful. This is a beautiful and lovely film that I think is a must-watch for Pride Month this year. Seek this thing out, watch it, and you will not be disappointed. So overall, I'm going to give Laurence Anyways a 9.8 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much for watching my Laurence Anyways review. Let me know if there's a film or topic you'd like me to review. Make sure you like and subscribe. It's free. Follow me on Letterboxd, Ralph Vader. It'll be linked below. I got a podcast with my buddy, The Cutting Room Floor. I'll link that below as well for more movie content. I will be back next week. And don't forget the popcorn.